Something we reference a lot is the idea of all are welcome, and as well as there's no asterisk next to who is allowed to be a part of Marquette. It is a community where everyone is welcome, and we strive to meet that standard. My name is Zabrian Oglesby, and I serve as our Assistant Dean of Students at Marquette University. When I think about what brings me joy, in a genuine space, it's the connections to people, and getting to be in a field where we are so student-centered and human-focused.
Welcome to the very first episode of Marquette Cares, the podcast that highlights all the ways Marquette is the difference, lights the fire in our students, our community, and our world. Our guest today is Zabrian Oglesby. Zer are they, them pronouns? Zabrian serves as the Assistant Dean of Students in the Division of Belonging and Student Affairs at Marquette University. Zabrian joined Marquette in July 2023 as the Assistant Director of the LGBTQ+ Resource Center and brings more than a decade of experience as a Student Affairs Administrator. Their expertise spans student conduct, crisis response, operational excellence, and social justice education. Beyond Marquette, Zabrian is a Senior Instructional Program Manager with CodePath, a tech education nonprofit reimagining higher education for first-generation and low-income students and preparing the first AI native generation of engineers, CTOs, and founders.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be the first guest. I'm also really excited to be able to introduce Kelly as our consistent host throughout our podcast experience. Each month as we release, Kelly will be that constant voice for listeners. So Kelly Albrecht serves as the student case manager for the care team in the Office of Student Development at Marquette University. Kelly joined Marquette in May of 2023. In her role, she coordinates support for students navigating personal, mental health, and academic challenges and facilitates collaborative responses with campus partners, including the Marquette University Police Department, Marquette Counseling Center, academic supports, faculty, and advisors. Before joining Marquette, Kelly worked as a K-12 school counselor for 10 years. Outside of Marquette, Kelly is a parent of 3 sons and a professional writer and author.
Indeed, I am. So here we are.
Yeah, long time, but sometimes the shortest of times at the same time.
It really is. We're finally doing it. We have talked about doing this podcast for a long time, but let's talk about why we're doing this podcast and how we got here. You came to me over the summer and said, what is your dream? What is the thing that you have always wanted to do at Marquette? What is something that you feel really strongly about? And I said, well, I used to do a podcast. I did it for 2 years. And I really think a podcast about Marquette, about all the ways that we show care and compassion and all the things, like the hidden things that we do here, should be highlighted. And we should be able to tell those stories because a lot of those stories don't get told. And then you said,
let's do it.
You did. You said, let's do it. Let's go for it. And here we are.
Yeah. Once I learned that was a passion of yours, as well as having a background in the space, knowing that you're heavily creative as well across multiple areas of your life, it felt natural to do. I think also a big part of Jesuit Catholic tradition is oral storytelling, the reflection, the discernment process of how did we get to where we are. And just as you said, there's so many hidden sides of any institution, but it feels like at Marquette in particular, there's sometimes the wondering of, so who actually does the intentional, what we call care work on our campus, as well as who are the faces that don't always get brought, let's say, into the full sunlight, but they're doing some of the boots on the ground work or helping our students in some of the most pivotal moments of development that they have. So I love the idea of being able to storytell and trying to meet people in different venues. There's so many newsletters today. There's different venues on social media. So we wanted to also engage this area of podcasting too. So it's been exciting to collaborate on it. And this has been a work since the summer. So it's exciting to see it come to fruition.
Yeah. And along with that, another thing that we wanted to highlight, both you and I are both first-gen students, first-gen college students. So we know that struggle of not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that is a big, big part of what we see at Marquette a lot with our students. Not just first-gen students, continuing generation students of you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So that's another goal that we have with this podcast of sharing that story of Marquette and sort of educating families about these are things that you might not know about Marquette that we do. And did you know how we provide these services, or do you know these people, or these are things that you should know about Marquette? And it's pretty good, and we do a lot here because there's so many things, and we call a lot of that the hidden curriculum.
Yes.
But as first-gen students, like I remember we had that great moment where I was like, I remember the first time I heard the word registrar, and I was like, oh no, you're pronouncing it wrong. It's register.
Yes.
It's not registrar. I had no idea what a registrar was. I had no idea what the bursar did. I had no idea what these words are because no one ever told me what those things are. But you know what? We're going to tell people now, and we're going to get those people on this podcast, and they're going to tell you what they do, and they're going to tell you how they provide care and support for students at Marquette. Because have you ever talked to a registrar? Like, we have a really great assistant registrar at Marquette.
Yes, we do.
Who is amazing, and he has so much knowledge about Marquette. So you're going to hear from him eventually.
Right. Yeah. Like I echo that 100%, especially that hidden curriculum component of you genuinely don't know what you don't know. Sometimes it meets you head on in a classroom. Sometimes it's sent to you in an email that you think is heavily like legal jargon if it's from the student conduct side of the house, where I sit and you get freaked out. You don't know what's happening as a student, and you may not have somebody to turn to right away. So how do you help them through that process? In that same way, like I grew up in very rural Indiana as a first generation college student. I was eating some fruit snacks and being told I was going to college. And I said, sure, I'll figure that out. I'm 5. Let me be. And I have figured it out. I've made a professional home in education once I realized again, like, oh, people work here. There's a whole system that makes this run. I think it's so important and just want to give that back in so many ways.
So speaking of systems that work and how we work, you have a very interesting and unique job at Marquette.
Yes.
You are the assistant dean of students. That is a little bit of a catch-all. It is a big role. It is a big title. What do you do at Marquette, Zabrian?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, Kelly. Within my role as assistant dean of students within the Division of Belonging and Student Affairs, I'm a non-academic dean. So I feel like typically when folks hear the word title dean, they assume that I work in the College of Business or comm, etc. I actually support all students. So if you are an undergrad, graduate student, or professional student at Marquette, you're one of our students. Specifically, my portfolio oversees all things related to student conduct. So that's our codes of community expectations, what are all of our students enroll in Marquette and agree to that code and have to uphold it. I also have dotted lines to help our care team. So I get to work with you pretty closely, as well as new student and family programs. I have some matrix supervision capabilities there of supporting orientation in our Spark program. Yeah, it's a big role.
It is a really big role. You get pulled into a lot of different areas too, just based on your vast experience and knowledge that you have in higher ed, because you've pretty much been in it your entire professional life.
Exactly.
So you are a wealth of knowledge on anything higher ed related, and the amount that I just go to you for anything of like, I don't know what this is, because I do not come from higher ed. I come from public education. So when I came into higher ed, I had no idea really about a lot of things. Again, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And you have filled a lot of those gaps for me as the case manager, which a lot of people don't know what a case manager does at a university.
Yeah.
So I cover also a lot of bases, but what people don't know is that most colleges and universities have what is a CARE team, which stands for, at our campus, Campus Assessment Response and Education, or a BIT team, which is a behavioral intervention team. Yes. These are really important things to have at universities. These all came about as a result of some very serious issues at universities in the country, and they're really designed to keep everyone on campuses safe and to make sure everybody is well enough and stable enough to be there, and to provide resources for our students to make them academically successful. That's sort of like the nitty-gritty of what care teams do. And as the case manager, I receive referrals from staff and faculty, and a lot of times students about other students that they have concerns about. Those concerns, like I get a lot of questions like, well, what are the referrals you get? Literally everything. I have gotten referrals for.
I've seen it. I can bear witness to that.
Literally any kind of issue you could think about with, if you have a child.
Yeah.
Or you have a student, or you know a student, I have gotten a referral for that. Attendance, academic concerns, mental health issues, emotional health issues, physical health issues. I once got a referral from a parent because their student had not picked up the phone when they called.
Yeah.
That's just a nervous parent. We get those all the time. I'm totally here for you on that one too. When we get those, we assess risk on every single referral. That is done based on a rubric that is sort of a national guideline that we follow. Most universities follow that. It's from an organization called NABITA. I also do that with a interdisciplinary team that meets once a week. That interdisciplinary team is sort of the team that guides me and guides the university on, any kind of major crisis or issues with students that come up. MUPD sits on that team. That's our Marquette Police Department, Counseling Center, Office of Disability Services, Residence Life, Conduct sits on that team. And it's chaired by the Dean of Students, who is both our supervisors, and that is Aaron Gannon.
Dean Gannon.
Dean Gannon. Shout out Dean Gannon. And we meet once a week. And that is the purpose of an interdisciplinary team is to, have discussion about issues and discussion about, sort of serious student issues. And we should have dissent and we should have lots of talk and we should all sort of come to different conclusions and opinions on that. And trust me, we do. It is a big, big, serious meeting that we have a lot. But I love my job and I love Marquette students. And it is a job that keeps me very busy.
It absolutely does. I think about the amount of students and the volume because we are in the same physical office space.
We are.
Intentionally, so that way it's a one-stop shop for students when we think about their care at our campus. But being able to really say, okay, are we doing a referral even inter-unit? We've done that to each other. Mm-hmm. There are some things that don't go between conduct and care for a reason. We talk about it a lot like a chain link fence. There are some things we can pass through the links, but there's some clear legal guidance on what for student protection, making sure to reduce any conscious or unconscious bias. And these are the things that I don't think folks know about how we operate at the institution or how institutions at large operate. There's so much intentional, I'm going to continue to use the word care, and guidance that comes up for us to make sure we are being the best stewards of taking care of any student, regardless of where they come from, their background story, etc. We take that job very seriously, that we as Marquette, and in particular in our different roles at our offices, how we are stewards of excellence across all those values.
Yeah, I love that stewards of excellence because, we really do produce excellent students.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times roadblocks pop up for students.
Yep.
And I like to look at myself. I like to look at you, our office, as roadblock removers, whatever that is. Students are going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Students are going to have issues. And that doesn't mean that they can't be successful.
100%.
And it doesn't mean that they don't belong at Marquette. One of the things that I always like to tell students when they feel like, I'm failing or like I didn't have a great semester, I messed up. I tell them, you may have picked Marquette, but we picked you back.
Yes, people forget that all the time.
They
it's
do.
So important.
They do. I said, yeah, you applied and you were like, yes, Marquette's my school, but we also had to say yes to you.
Yeah.
And we said yes for a reason. So you do belong here.
Right.
Don't ever forget that. Because I think that sometimes students lose sight of that a lot. And I think our office in particular does a really good job of making sure students that even if you make a mistake, even if you have a setback, that does not mean you are not a successful Marquette student because you do belong here. Right. And we're going to help you get back on track. And I really love the work we do. I'm really proud of the work we do. Mm-hmm. Again, we really work well together, conduct and care. And I think we have a very smooth sort of gelled process of how things work between us. So well done us, I think.
Yeah, kudos.
So back to what this pod is going to sort of look like, how we're going to move forward. What other things, like we have talked about who else we're going to be bringing onto this podcast, and we've talked about I sort of said like bursar and registrar, but like what else? Like tell everybody like who else this season that we're going to be bringing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the beautiful things about Marquette, I think, is like the holistic nature of what we do. Like the idea of holistic care for the entire whole person, leaning into that value of cura personalis. That is so important for what we do here. So we're excited to bring in folks from campus ministry, mission and ministry, to talk about how do we do pastoral care? What does it look like to experience spirituality and faith in different perspectives? I think sometimes folks look at Marquette, and yes, we are a Jesuit Catholic school. We have that affiliation, but there's more than just folks that identify as Catholic at Marquette, 100%. So how do we provide care for multiple aspects? Being able to lean into who are our students that are here too. So being able to bring in folks that have found care through multiple means at Marquette and help them elevate them on that path to success, like you were talking about. So some student voices as well from our different scholarships that we offer in the community. We've also talked about bringing in folks from other dean spaces on the academic affairs or faculty affairs side as well. So the lineup is going to be dynamic in that way, and being able to see, okay, these are the different folks that are those stewards of excellence and care, and making sure that they're getting that practical advice. Like we want to make sure that things aren't as coded. We talk about this a lot in our offices, especially again, this goes back to being first gen. There are so many words that folks have used, and I'm like, that's really cool. Can you let me Google that?
Yes, that we do bring that up a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are students that are in that same space. And I think parents also sometimes get lost in the academic jargon that many institutions use. You're not alone, parents. So how do we really make sure that we're breaking that down into tangible takeaways too?
Yeah, we do. I think one thing that is more unique about our office is we field a lot of parent phone calls.
Yes.
A lot of nervous parents who just, it might be the first time they're sending a child to college, and they have a lot of questions, and they don't know offices, they don't know resources, they don't know certain things. And I think one of the main takeaways we hope to do with this podcast is answer some of those questions, or make parents or families feel comfortable sending their child, their precious little angels, to Marquette University and trusting us with those, because it is something that I see as serving Marquette students. It is an honor for me to serve them. I have not met a Marquette student that I have not thought, man, you are incredible. You are just amazing, because you are determined to be here, and you're putting your all into it. So I think one of the things we also hope to do is give parents practical advice on having a college student, because parenting a college student, as a parent of a college student myself, it's very different than parenting a K-12 student. It's a big transition. So by bringing in these other experts, other people from around campus to have practical advice for parents too, of like, well, this is what I would advise you to do in this area of my expertise, or this is what you should know as a parent. I think that's a really important bit of information that we can provide for families.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The other piece, I know that you do this a lot in our office, so shout out to you. But truly, I think of it in the space of like parents, families, and caregivers. Families look so different for every person. And being able to meet a student and help them understand that maybe they call somebody a different title, or they refer to them in a particular type of way, be it based upon like cultural information, relationship, etc. That doesn't diminish the value of that. And as well as we want to take care of the whole person, your family, your caregivers, chosen family, etc., those are all parts of you. So how do we do that intentionally? I think is so important. And it can sometimes feel exclusive to who gets that kind of care. And really, it's how do we break that down to see that it is, as best as we can, equitable and accessible for all that go to Marquette. Something we reference a lot is the idea of all are welcome, and as well as there's no asterisk next to who is allowed to be a part of Marquette. It is a community where everyone is welcome, and we strive to meet that standard.
We absolutely do strive to meet that. So we're coming to the end of our first show, and one of the things that we want to do to end every show is end with one of our slogans at Marquette, which is, we are
Marquette.
That is a big thing we do. If you've ever seen anything with President Chemo, one of his big things is he will step away from a mic and shout, "We are
Marquette."
Everybody has to say it. He does it 3 times. So really, to me, that phrase, that slogan means we are, as in all of us. We are all Marquette. We are all here together. We are all in it together. So this is what I'm going to call our what's your we are moment. And that would be what's a moment where you really felt that Marquette spirit. You felt either cared for or you felt really a part of Marquette as either a staff member or a student, or you just felt like, I am so proud to be a member of the Marquette community, that we are Marquette moment. So in that spirit,
Yes.
I've thought long and hard about my we are Marquette
I'm
moment.
curious. Tell me about it.
My we are moment is one that actually involves you.
Stop.
And it is the first time really that you and I kind of ever worked together on a student issue, a student problem. It was last spring. It was very early spring.
Yeah, it wasn't too long after I came back to Marquette.
It was not. I had a student referred to me who was experiencing unstable housing, and they were living in an Airbnb or in between housing, and not having a stable food source, very depressed, obviously, for lots of reasons, not to get into it to violate the student's privacy. But the student was extremely academically strong.
Yes.
Amazing student. And after talking to them and hearing their story, and they were also extremely young,
Yeah.
I said, this cannot happen at Marquette. This is not going to happen to a Marquette student. And I asked that student, can you wait right here, please? And I went over to your office and I said, Zabrian, and I don't think we knew each other, but we hadn't worked together a lot.
Yeah.
I said, I need you to come and talk to this student with me and hear this, please. And you came over and the student shared with you what they were going through, shared that they did not have housing, that they were not food stable. And you stood up and you said, give me a day. And
A Zabrian classic.
and you walked out, and I told that student, we'll be in touch, please. Like, just let us see what we can do.
Yeah.
And within 3 days, you through your work and me through, just keeping in contact with that student, making sure they were safe, making sure they were in a good place mentally. We had that student in student housing and a meal plan for the rest of the semester.
Yeah.
And that was also thanks to our higher administration and some extremely generous donors to the university.
Absolutely. It was a team effort.
It was a team effort. And that was like seeing that in action, seeing that happen. I was like, only at Marquette. That is a Marquette moment
100%.
Where we made that happen. In that moment was like, I'm not exactly sure what to do here, but I know we can do something.
Right.
And I brought it to you and you were like, I'm not exactly sure either, but I bet I can find the people who can.
Right.
And those people are like, we know the people who really can.
Yeah, it's usually the slogan of who you gonna call. It really does pay off.
It really did in that moment. And that I'll never forget when I took that student to the room that they had.
Yeah.
They could not believe they had their own room. And I'll remember them telling me when I said, and you have a meal plan, that you can go and eat right now. The thing that they were most excited about was one, having a hot breakfast every morning.
Yes.
And that she could eat cereal, that they could eat cereal any time of the day. They were very excited about that. As well. Very excited about that. But that student is going to go on to do amazing things with their life.
Yeah.
And I was just proud of being a part of Marquette University in that situation.
Right. Yeah, I echo that fully. Like that case in particular, it was so dynamic and so many people hopped in to help that student, and there's different limitations on what we can do for each individual case, of course, but I'm always proud of what we're able to provide, and being able to do that so swiftly. Like, so many people activated quickly as soon as it was identified that a Marquette student was in need.
Yeah.
And truly the power of donors changed that whole situation. Without the giving that we get from our donor group, alumni, etc., that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. But if that student had never come in with the referral, or we hadn't gotten that into your office in particular, we wouldn't have been able to help them. So that's why I think it's so important that we are approachable in those ways too.
Yeah, absolutely. If she didn't trust us to tell that story, we would never have been able to help her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think in a similar way, when I think about my moment and when I have felt like a deep connection to Marquette. I mentioned that I did leave Marquette at one point in time.
You did.
I left for affectionately what we now refer to as my sabbatical of 3 to 4 months. And I came back. But before that, in my role when I was first at Marquette, it was the LGBTQ plus assistant director down in our Office of Inclusion and Belonging. And there was a student in particular that I had gotten a couple of referrals for. And that was actually the first time I worked with you, was for this individual. The student is a part of the LGBTQ plus community. I openly identify as queer and trans. Those are big parts of my personhood that I carry everywhere. And I was so nervous in a way that I probably shouldn't have been allowed to be. I wasn't the student parent, but I care so deeply that whenever I knew I was transitioning to a new role away from the institution, I had that space of who's going to help take care of this person. And I went up to the OSD suite, the Office of Student Development, and asked if I could meet with you. And I think that was the first time we had met in person.
I think it was inside of just saying hello and passing.
Right.
Yes.
I was like, hi, I'm leaving, but I'm really concerned about this student and also the folks that they are connected to in community. I want to make sure that we're taking care of their unique needs here, as well as it doesn't get lost in any way, shape, or form. And I think we're great at doing that with our intentional population size and the size of our campus. Students aren't numbers. They're individuals, and we uphold that all the time. And some of the times, for the spirit of equity, some of those folks need more unique support. And this is one of those times. You were able to help me craft an action plan and a care plan for that student because we knew that once I left as a constant tenet of connection for them as an advisor, they would have to find somebody new. Now that student is a junior. And is thriving and doing amazing things. I'm always excited to see what they do. They're starting their own nonprofit work. They do lots of volunteerism. They want to be a director of human resources and give back in big ways. Again, that was another time to me where like I knew I could hand the care of someone, some individual student, to another person and not feel like it was going to fall. Nobody was going to drop that ball. There are so many moving things at Marquette that we honestly do keep moving. And I'm very grateful for the work that you did, as well as the care advisory team that you were talking about, made sure that student is still safe and successful today. So I just thank you for that.
You're welcome. It was a great first meeting. And again, like I said, I think we both value our roles at Marquette because we know how important our students are. And again, like I said, it is an honor to serve them. And you and I both come in every day with one goal, and that goal is those students and making them successful and keeping them safe. And as we always say, if you're not here with that goal in mind, then I don't know what you're here.
Right. I think it's time to explore new pastures.
Yeah, it's time to maybe not be here. But that was a really beautiful moment. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, friend.
So that is our first episode.
This is wild. It's coming to fruition, Kelly.
It really is. I am so excited for this.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for helping me make this happen. You have really put in the footwork on this one as producer extraordinaire.
Hey.
So I am so excited to see what we do with this.
Me too.
And I am so excited to highlight all these beautiful, wonderful stories and people at Marquette and the ways that we support and care for our students and we help them be successful. I think we're going to do some amazing things.
I agree. I'm excited for it and for the other voices to come in with the lineup this first season and to build the catalyst for future seasons. There's so much care to go through. This is not the end.
This is not the end. So thank you everyone for listening to our very first episode.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for more Marquette Cares.